Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome to the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, hey, welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and that's brought to you by Computer America. We have a lot of different stuff to talk about, everything from Intel coming in swinging with their next gen CPUs. We have everything from Russia proposing to ban the entirety of Twitter. And a lot, all that and more. And also one of my favorite that we actually might just start off with is a device that is normally used to, here we go. A device that is normally used to cut documents, to shape them, things like that, pieces of paper. This company is proposing to limit how often you can use the device that you own. That's right, you pay for it in its entirety, and unless you pay them money and subscribe to them, you will get limited to the amount of times this thing will physically work. Much in the same way, I assume, as, imagine buying a printer and you can only print so many pages if you, don't pay them. And ridiculousness like that and more here on Computer America. But before we get to that, everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, all the shows, as well as the podcast, social media links, articles, reviews. We have a couple new ones up, and of course, all the past shows as well. You can find all that there at computeramerica.com, best place to find it. And I guess with that being said, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it, and we hope that you enjoy the show today. So everyone, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news, brought to you by Computer America. So, like I said, our first story, this is actually a device that I had not heard about before, and I keep wanting to read Circuit, though that's not the name of the device. The device name is called a Cricut, C-R-I-C-U-T. Now wants users to pay extra for the unlimited amount of cutting. So, we can go ahead and I'm actually kind of curious if Cricut has, usually whenever things like this happen, especially with kind of novelty pieces or pieces that are niche, I'm curious if they kind of walk back on this with all of the, with all the negative publicity they've been getting. So, let's go ahead and see that. Let's see, all that good stuff there. I'm wondering if they have, Facebook. They don't have a Twitter. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so let me look up that real quick. Anyways, over the weekend, people who own Cricut's crafting machines, which are printer-like devices that can precisely slice up documents, learned of an upcoming update that will limit how often they can use the machines that they have paid for. And get this, these things are not cheap. The cheapest one is about $300. It's not like they're, giving you the machine and then you pay for the service. No, this thing is pretty crazy. So with that being said, let's see. We'll now start charging users a monthly subscription for unlimited printing, which prior to that had been free. Using Cricut's machines requires the use of the company's proprietary design space software for desktop PCs and mobile devices. It allows designs to be imported from other software programs like Illustrator or anything that would, of course, be something that you would want on any craft. And they said that in range to maximize the use of a piece of paper. Some of the fancier paper stocks that work with Cricut can be expensive. Design Space allows users custom artwork to be created from scratch using a giant library of downloadable fonts, graphics, and patterns, some of which are free and most of which are not. So far, that all sounds perfect. That's a business model that has been around for a little while now. The software, of course, whatever you need to do to make the basic software function is included with the purchase of the machine. And then they have like a freemium model where, some of the fonts and some of the pictures are free, clip art, common use, all that is perfectly fine. And then you have stuff that is submitted by artists that they have to pay third-party royalties to, or stuff that they want to charge a premium for. And that's just like any other store. You have free stuff and you have paid for stuff. Now, as Gizmodo, and by the way, this article comes from Gizmodo, as Gizmodo pointed out in their review last year, not only can crafting with the machine get expensive, but everything has to be processed through the Design Space software before cutting instructions are sent to the machine. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest problems here, is that you have to use the software. It's not like you can work around it or anything like that. No, you have to use it. Now, until this past weekend, the extra step was a minor inconvenience, but now the company has promised a future update to the software that sounds a little unfair if you've already paid for the hardware. And the exact quote is right here. They took a screenshot of it, saying that also, and this is a quote from Cricut, soon we will be making charges that affect members who use the free Design Space app without a Cricut access plan. Every calendar month, these members will be allowed to upload 20 personal images and/or patterns. Members with a paid access plan will have unlimited uploads. All members with or without a plan will keep their existing uploads. So essentially, if you use this thing and you want to upload your own design, your own image, your own idea, you only get to do it 20 times. And even if it's something as simple as just, on a piece of paper or, a design for something, foldable or whatever, 20 times. And then you can print each one as many times as you want, but you can only have 20 different designs. Pretty limiting. And at the same time, you're wondering, why would they even implement something like that? So the company already offers monthly and annual subscription plans that give access to the library of designs, graphics, and fonts through the app at a cheaper rate than buying them all individually. If you rely on these downloads for your projects, these subscriptions aren't bad, but until recently, they were completely optional. And now we have it. Before artwork is sent to the Cricut machine to be sliced up, it's first sent to the cloud. The cloud is then used to optimize the design and the cutting instructions. Currently, there is no limit, and Cricut users can upload as many designs as they want. But obviously, again, 20 personal images and or patterns per month will be the new standard. Casual crafters may never hit that limit, but those relying on the machine for income, like those selling their crafts on, let's say, Etsy, they will have no choice but to start paying for a machine that they already purchased and they're already using perfectly fine, and now they're forced to pay for it. Now, there's no timeline on when they will start enforcing the 20 uploads per month, or if it will introduce new, cheaper subscription plans to accommodate the affected. The article, the author says that they reached out for comment. If they want to start doing that, having a mandatory subscription, the only thing I can think of is, to make that accessible and make that transition, all existing accounts with Cricut should have some kind of legacy plan, that would be absolutely free, unlimited use, unlimited uploads, everything that when they purchased the machine and started using the service, they were promised. And then anyone new who creates accounts or buys a new machine or registers a new product, they would then be phased into the new scheme. And people hopefully would go in knowing that they have to pay $13 a month to use it beyond 20 times or anything like that. I can't imagine that they're going to bait and switch people like that. Buy this machine, it's yours, you're good to go, and then turn around and say, oh, by the way, you can only use it, with 20 different patterns a month. It's puts a bad feeling that right now it's just a craft, kind of design piece of equipment. But printers have been looking at a type of this for so long, limiting the amount of pages and how much ink you can use. It's something that, a lot of different technology companies are trying to do. And unfortunately, it's just the economics of technology today where not only are they getting you to pay for the device because that was kind of going on the downside, but they're also getting you to pay for a service. Services make these companies money, and they make them a lot of money. They're hoping that you don't get subscription fatigue and you get tired of paying for your Netflix, your Google account, your internet subscription, your Cricut subscription. They're hoping that you don't get overwhelmed and they don't notice that you're still paying for it. But yeah, overall, it just seems like a horrible idea. And again, I hope that at least the people who have purchased the machine already and thought that they would get it all for free, I'm hoping that there's a way that they can, kind of look at this and go, yeah, you get phased into a, a legacy program that would work for them. So there you go. First one. Awful stuff. Speaking of awful, Adobe. No. Come back. It's okay. Adobe, though, speaking of things that, actually, there's not really a great transition, but this is actually a very funny one. Adobe's been around for a while. They've been around for a long time. In fact, one of their first products, Acrobat Reader 1.0 for Microsoft DOS. MS-DOS, way back in the day. How far back? 27 years ago. I was a mere 3 years old when this thing hit the market. And check this one out. A gentleman from F-Secure who, a researcher from F-Secure has had one of his tweets taken down because it was linked to an unauthorized copy of a 27-year-old version of Acrobat Reader 1.0 for MS-DOS. So yeah, this is a takedown notice via Twitter for one of their products. I'm not especially upset about Adobe over this. This is probably an automated system. It's not something that it really looks like they're trying to protect their their stuff on, but still, it's pretty funny. Now, they say that the World Wide Web started to gain traction while the hardware and software companies continue to innovate at a rapid pace. Adobe, which released a new file format in 1993, the Portable Document Format, or PDF for short, was widely adopted in the years that followed and is now used by billions of people. PDF made sure that whatever you see on your screen, the recipient is going to see the exact same thing on their screen. PDF. Today, there are many popular PDF readers available, but Adobe's original Acrobat Reader is still the go-to software for many. Needless to say, Adobe doesn't want third parties to pirate its software, so the company sends out DMCA notices to remove infringing copyrights. And, well, thanks to the way the copyright works, I guess technically 27 years later, they still own the copyright to the original MS-DOS Acrobat Reader 1.0. So in a recent tweet, this researcher from F-Secure mentioned that the software company removed one of his tweets that linked to an old copy of Acrobat Reader for MS-DOS. This software, which was hosted on WinWorld, came out more than 27 years ago, shortly after the PDF was invented. And by the way, fun fact, his account was actually locked because he received a DMCA takedown. So with that being said, while the original tweet is still up, the reposted message was swiftly removed by Twitter. Not just that, but the bot's account was locked as well, which is standard practice nowadays. So, yeah, they say that looking more closely at the takedown notice, we see that it was sent by the brand. Yep, saying that it was sent by the brand protection analyst at IncoPro. Let's say that, which is one of Adobe's anti-piracy partners. It doesn't provide any further details on the reasons for taking it down other than an alleged copyright infringement. Original tweet targeted, they saying that things get even more curious when we look at the full DMCA notice, and they say it was posted by Lumen Database. This shows that the tweet was listed among other links which all pointed to infringing copies of more recent software. It sounds like this was an automated filter. Adobe partners with these companies, Lumen Database and IncoPro, to protect their software and make sure that any mention of Adobe probably gets scrutinized, and separated by complaints, comments, and obviously links to pirated information. And not often does a 27-year-old version of software get brought up. So if it was caught in the net, it seems like this was something that was automated and easy to do. As this article points out, if Adobe seriously has a problem with the fact that a 27-year-old copy of Reader is being shared, it's more effective to target the site where it's hosted, not the person who links it in a tweet. But hey, let's face it, social media is highly monitored by these companies to make sure that their intellectual property is not being shared. Because hey, where else are you going to share it other than social media? Now, with that being said, he stresses that the software is ancient and he will keep the original tweet online, even if it means he has to fight Adobe, saying that the software is antique, it belongs in a museum, not in a DMCA claim. He says that the original tweet stays up. It's just a link to a site hosted by someone else. If needed, I'll fight Adobe. I really doubt Adobe is interested in fighting this guy whatsoever. Automated. It can be very inconvenient, and I definitely agree that the software that he's pointing to does belong actually in a museum. The archives of ancient software definitely need to be protected, but protected from being utilized, probably not. I think that this thing, the Adobe Reader, undoubtedly has gone through complete rewrites, and that any information for Acrobat Reader 1.0 is equally as useless for Adobe as it would be for anyone else, especially when recreating maybe modern versions of the software. But still, it's funny. It's funny that a 27-year-old piece of software was captured by the DMCA, kind of copyright bot. So there you go. Okay. We have a couple Russian stories, which are always fun. Let's do this one real quick. Russia says that they are going to threaten, or at least Russia threatened, so they're not going to, they are threatening to ban Twitter in the next month, saying that Russian authorities are making demands that Twitter is reluctant to meet. And I don't doubt it, obviously Twitter being an American company, but wanting to operate in Russia. So they have to operate, and this is something that woe is these global corporations. They have to operate by local regulation. Well, it looks like at this time, Russia authorities say that they will block Twitter across the country in 1 month unless the social media company complies with demands to remove certain content. That's according to Reuters, which, by the way, is hilarious considering that the people, or at least the country that we associate with the most propaganda, misuse, abuse of social media is Russia themselves. Any kind of coordinated effort to actually, kind of abuse Twitter and influence information out there is not going to slow, because obviously the government can block it for everyday people, but then they can unblock it for their own, false information campaigns. But it will pretty much be sure that anyone accessing this from Russia is only the bad people, not just the everyday ordinary citizens. Now, this threat follows a week of rising tensions between Russia and Twitter. Yes, rising tensions between Russia and Twitter. The future is fun. March 9th, Russian authorities sued Twitter and other mainstream social media sites, alleging that they failed to delete posts urging children to participate in illegal nationwide protests over the jailing of one of Vladimir Putin's political opponents. And they mentioned that he happens to be a critic. On March 10th, regulators in the country throttled Twitter for failing to remove banned content, though this time they didn't mention the protest. Instead, they cited instances of, child pornography, drug use, tweets encouraging children to attempt suicide. All horrible things, and I think all things that, any basic human would totally be against. And by the way, Twitter totally does take those down. It just takes time because, anyone can go onto a Twitter account and instantly say something, and they can be one of tens of millions of people tweeting at that exact same time. It's hard to catch them all right away, but they do eventually. If it were brought to Twitter's attention, they guaranteed would take down any of those things. So, continuing on, at the same time, Russia regulators vaguely threatened to ban Twitter, though they did not provide a deadline for such a move. Now, today's warning was more direct. Russian news agencies reported today that the threat to block Twitter within the month came from the deputy head of the country's communications oversight board. So obviously, Putin, but yeah, they have another gentleman in there. Twitter is not reacting. Twitter is not reacting to our requests as they should. If the situation carries on, then it will be blocked in a month without a court order. So, in response to Russia's nationwide Twitter slowdown last week, the company said we have a zero tolerance policy regarding everything that they just talked about. And it is against the Twitter rules to promote, glorify, encourage any kind of self-harm or anything like that. And again, this is a quote directly from Twitter, and we do not allow Twitter for any unlawful behavior or further illegal activities, including buying or selling of drugs. We remain committed to an open internet around the world and are deeply concerned about the attempts to block or throttle the online public conversation. Again, it's Twitter saying, the thing you're going to take us down.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computer.
Out of it. Okay, I'm sorry. That really takes you out of it. Okay, so back to what I was saying before. Sorry, we had a little hiccup there with the software. Yeah. So, anyways, continuing on here again. Twitter saying, "Hey, we ban everything that you are about to take us down for," and clearly, this is an attempt to put pressure on Twitter to take down content that they don't like. And yeah, honestly, as far as Russia goes, I mean, from the entire internet, yeah, they probably don't have much jurisdiction. But as it pertains to just Russia, I mean, they can definitely do this. Overall, I don't think it's really that big of a loss. I don't know how big Russia is in terms of user base for Twitter, but it's a pretty small price to pay. I'm sorry, I'm actually looking up at my lights, and yeah, they might come down any second now, which is very inconvenient. So if you hear a loud bang, that's actually my lights about to come down. By the way, Nanoleaf, if you're listening, holy cow, your sticky tape sucks, like really bad. Okay, so anyways, we'll go ahead and get off this topic. Russia has been abusing Twitter and abusing the community on Twitter for misinformation campaigns for the longest time, and now the Russian government itself is trying to apply leverage. And yeah, I'm glad that Twitter is not backing down at all. So there you go. Okay, let's see. So we have one other Russian one, and this. Again, when you operate in different places, I mean, this is also tied to Russia, but Apple having to comply, and at the same time, hey, this is just what that country wants. Russia, and this is an article from AppleInsider, Apple capitulates to Russia's law requiring pre-installed software on iPhone and Mac. Yep. So, yeah, they said that Apple will pre-install mandatory apps on iPhones and other devices. Getting real scared. Okay, and other devices sold and activated in Russia in order to comply with laws that will come into force on April 1st. Russia's lower house of parliament passed laws in November 2019. That requires installation of government-approved apps on electronic devices sold in the country. While the introduction of the rules was postponed, it seems that Apple is preparing to comply with the legislation. So, what exactly are these apps? So, under the agreement, iPhones and iPads activated from April 1st and onward will present a new screen to users, offering a selection of apps produced by Russian developers. Users will be able to select which apps they allow or refuse to be installed via the screen as part of the setup process. All the apps will be checked for compliance with Apple's privacy, security, and content standards. The ministry is reportedly still discussing with Apple which apps need to be included, and it will likely evolve over time. They said that if alternative offers that are interesting to users and are rapidly gaining popularity appear on the market, they will include in the selection and will be offered. So in my head, it seems like that they're trying to force people into looking into, let's say, Russia approves of WeChat or something, a messaging app that is more favorable to the Russian government in terms of handing over personal data, private data, so on and so forth. Any of these Apple devices that are sold, it seems like they are trying to funnel people into apps that that the Russian government approves of, for privacy reasons, for security reasons, or anything like that. Yeah, all the good stuff. I hope that Apple, and again, it's not like Apple is introducing software that they wouldn't allow in their app store to begin with, but they're going to, again, funnel people into the apps that they approve of. So let's say if WeChat does, again, using that word capitulate, if WeChat capitulates and let's say, Messenger doesn't, the Russian government will try to encourage people to go to the messaging app that they would prefer. And again, Apple seems okay with this. Apple has been working with them, and I'm sure they're trying to make this as palatable for Apple users in Russia as possible. This does not affect anyone else outside of Russia, so anyone who is an Apple fan doesn't have too much to worry about unless, again, you are inside Russia. But hey, it's one of those wait and see, because again, they even said it will evolve over time as to what will actually happen. But yeah, it's definitely a different one. Okay. Let's see. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. And I think that our next topic is going to be, so many more. Speaking of tracking, a lot of the Russian government. Let's have a little bit of, not the Russian government, but hey, the U.S. government to a lesser extent. Although not really the U.S. government, but more Google. The new Google Nest Hub will track users' body activity in bed to generate personalized sleep tracking reports. So I think that this is one of those things that you would hope these companies would be in the game long enough to know that people don't like cameras that are constantly on. There's a lot of ways around this, and we've seen a lot of other, kind of privacy concerns pop up with Google in particular. But man, this one seems really bad. So they mentioned that the device's radar-based scanning technology detects movement, including coughing or snoring, as well as light and temperature changes. But the new feature has been criticized for collecting data when users are quote-unquote most vulnerable. And they mentioned that the Privacy is Power author Carissa mentioned what happens when you have, relations. And I'm assuming the short answer is Google knows. In so many ways, I'm sure that, they're going to know one way or another. Let's say you wear one of their heart rate monitors. I'm sure that they know. If you have cameras, if you have one of their smart speakers, they're going to know. But now this is taking it to a new level, again, by using radar instead of a physical camera. So it's a little better, but still concerning. These are the same questions. Again, this idea of being quote unquote spied on. These are questions that have been asked ever since smart speakers came into the home. And Craig, again, yes, they're going to track your sleep. This is a sleep quality type of device, and instead of wearing a sleep tracker or a device that's strapped to your chest or a fitness tracker, on your wrist, instead this is a radar that will be used from your Nest 2 device, your Google Nest 2 device, and it will track you using radar. So yeah, it's tracking your sleep. Now, when it comes to, whenever it comes up with a new product, it would be nearsighted to think about it as a product designed for its users. It's only designed for its users to the extent that it can convince people to use the product so that Google can get more data on us. Not only are we being heard, tracked, and spied on through our screens, now we're being scanned by solely. So there you go. Yeah, so they mentioned that Google's Solly radar was first used to allow Pixel 4 smartphones to silence calls or skip music with your fingers, which was a pretty cool feature. All you had to do was wave your hand in front of your phone, and you could skip or pause or anything like that. By the way, it was actually removed from the Pixel 5 because, to reduce cost. Well, the Nest 2 will be able to use it to activate functions such as snoozing and alarm, but it will also collect data to generate personalized sleeping tips and schedules. And they mentioned that it could charge a subscription for the future. If anyone here has used software that lets them try to get better sleep, they track your sleep. They know when you're in deep sleep, when you're in REM sleep, when you're, only lightly sleeping. And essentially they'll spit out a report that says, hey, you're getting really good rest of sleep. Good job. Keep it up. Or they say you're getting really bad sleep. Fix it. And, it's a pretty common thing. The difference here is, again, the ever constant radar scanning. And then, of course, the fact that it is Google. They mentioned that tech that actively scans movement is not something I feel is useful. Our minds look for threats, and being watched while we sleep is a primal one. This does not feel safe, especially when the level of anxiety of the current populations are heightened. Non-invasive technologies such as watches or rings could be more useful to monitor sleep, he said. The things he just mentioned are already being used. That's already kind of the standard, and this is simply using a technology that is built in and would work equally as well. One additional idea is, there have been apps on smartphones for the longest time that if you wanted to track sleep without, if you wanted to track sleep on smartphones, there were apps where you download them, you have them running constantly during the night, and you put them directly on the mattress. And your movement on the mattress, tossing, turning, sleeping soundly, that kind of thing. And I think there was also a microphone component where it would listen for, kind of loud noises or things that would interrupt your sleep. Those have been around forever. And we have not heard the same complaints from these smaller apps that have been on the store or these different products. And trust me, at CES, there are tons of sleep better products all the time. These other companies are asked the exact same question, but they are not held to this crazy high standard because honestly, I think it's because it's Google. They already know so much about us. They could really flesh out a much bigger, more comprehensive picture of someone. And the fact that they know, again, if you do something embarrassing in bed, that's tied, that information can be tied to all of your other information. That seems to be the big issue here. Now, with that being said, but Nest's senior product manager, he blogged, "We want to offer an alternative way for people who may not want to wear something to bed to understand their sleep. A lack of sleep can negatively affect mood, energy, stress, diet, productivity." And he mentions that also they're aiming to integrate the sleep sensing features and Fitbit's sleep analytics, having bought the fitness tracking company last year. So I think that's really the main issue here. It's they, again, the technology is already there. They can already do this. They're giving it as an option to all of the alternatives that this gentleman offered are already being used. Google's just saying that, hey, this is a new way that you could use it. Let's face it, if you really do have these strong feelings that you don't trust the service and you don't trust Google in your home, you probably don't have one of these, and you probably won't be buying one anytime soon. It's a little hyperbolic for the author to from the BBC to kind of attack it like that, but I understand it's a different kind of sleep monitoring, and let's face it, any kind of monitoring from Google is always going to be heavily scrutinized. So there you have it. Okay, our next topic that we're going to go ahead and cover Let's talk about Intel. I'm really looking forward to Intel. I'm hoping to upgrade my system here soon, and I cannot be more excited. There's a lot of great hardware from all the manufacturers, AMD, Nvidia, Intel. They all make amazing things, and I'm looking forward to it so much. Well, this is the kind of articles you want to read before you upgrade your equipment. This one from DaVinci Hardware for Engadget, very, very good writer, saying that Intel's 11th gen desktop CPUs could win gamers back from AMD. Bold claim. AMD for a number of years has outpaced Intel in a lot of metrics, not in some of the best ones. I mean, in terms of kind of clock speed and that kind of thing. But when it comes to thread count and price to performance and so much more, temperature stability, AMD has been ahead in a lot of those. But Intel, Intel's still good. It's not as dominant as it once was, but they're still good. So let's find out what's up. Intel already dropped the biggest news about the CPUs in January, saying that they will be about 19% faster than its 10th gen chips. Now that the company is finally able to give us more information about its next family of CPUs, codename Rocket Lake S. So gone are the days of Coffee Lake and all that kind of thing. Rocket Lake S. The fastest offering will be the Core i9-11900K, which is an 8-core chip that reaches 5.3 gigahertz on a single core. Notably, that's 2 fewer cores than last year's 10900K. Intel has clearly had to do some trade-offs since it's not moving to a new manufacturing process. They're saying that by sacrificing a few cores, it's hoping to wring out more performance from its 14 nanometer chip. And if you're like me, still using 14 nanometer and really hoping that Intel makes that jump to 10, if not 7, like AMD has been using, it's time to just jump, either go AMD and get that change that you're looking for, or just do it, because Intel's not tackling that for another year or two. Anywho, they're saying that that's great news for gamers. Most PC titles don't take full advantage of multiple CPU cores, which is completely true. Instead, it's single core performance and high clock speeds that matter most, which is a trend that is probably going to change. Eventually, like right now, if you make video games, you can only depend on computers. A couple of years ago, it was guaranteed to have at least 2 available cores that, could be dedicated to video games. Nowadays, you're probably guaranteed, 2 to 4 tops. You have to make sure that your software runs on as many systems as possible. Obviously, in the future, especially in a future where AMD is still competitive, the amount of cores could one day that these games could utilize could one day go up, especially with Intel and AMD both offering, 36 core processors. It's just not the most effective thing right now. But with that being said, Intel claims that the 11900K is 14% faster than its chip while playing Microsoft Flight Simulator. Makes sense. Microsoft Flight Simulator and at 1080p with high settings, as well as 13% speedier in Total War 3 Kingdoms. So there you go. Based on the figures Intel has shared so far, there doesn't seem to be a major downside to going with the 8-core flagship chip instead of the 10-core model. That's even true for tasks that can actually take advantage of multiple cores, saying that the company claims that the 11900K is a whopping 88% faster than the previous model when it comes to video editing, as well as 35% faster than a comparable Ryzen AMD chip. At this point, it seems like the speed improvements were worth the sacrifice, but third-party benchmarks are always useful. Which again, if you're looking at the video portion of the stream here, yeah, you can see all the benchmarks here. Definitely good. I'm glad that they put them out. Benchmarking is important. The problem is that, well, they're Intel. And Intel is obviously going to optimize their benchmarking for exactly what they want. And yeah, third-party benchmarks are probably the best thing to look for. Still, at a base clock speed of 3.5, you're looking at, overclocking all the way up to, let's say, 5.3, which is insanely fast. That's awesome that they're able to do that. I'm actually looking forward to these down here, the 11700Ks, the same thread count, a little bit faster speeds. I'm actually kind of curious how good the 11700K and the 11700KF actually do. Fun to think about. But still, okay, there you go. Across the board, you can expect up to 50% faster graphics on the 11th gen CPUs, thanks to Intel's UHD graphics. And they'll support up to 20 PCI lanes, which 20, not the most I've heard of, but it's decent. DDR4 3200 RAM, as well as the ability to better handle new media compression like 10-bit AV1, 12-bit HEVC, and E2E. So it seems to have all the bells and whistles that you could possibly want. Also support for USB 3.2, which by the way is 20 gigs up and down instead of just 10 of the USB 3.1. And all that together means that, hey, obviously Intel, we would like them to move on from the 14 nanometer architecture. But given, and this is from Devindra's post here, saying that given just how strong AMD's Ryzen chips have been over the years, it may still make more sense to jump ship. That's particularly true if you care more about efficient thermal performance as well as upgradability. It's unclear how future Intel CPUs will support its latest batch of chipsets. Meanwhile, AMD has historically done a better job of making new hardware backwards compatible with older chipsets. So, yep, really backwards compatibility, upgradability. If you want something with longevity, couldn't agree more. This, AMD might still be the one that you want to go for, but overall, these are very strong numbers coming out from Intel. And man, it's really impressive that using the same techniques that they've been using for almost a decade now, that they're able to still get performance increases out of these chips. It's very, very impressive. But man, I wish they would hurry up. So there you go. That's Intel. I desire so much more from Intel, but it's a start. It's a start. Let's talk about Nvidia. So if you haven't noticed, cryptocurrency been going a little crazy. It's, let's see, what is the current price of Bitcoin? Yesterday it was like, it fell from its 60,000. It was down to like 56,000. Price of Bitcoin today, you're still at about 56,000. So yeah, it's, a volatile market, but at the same time, let's see. Oh, actually just yesterday it was up to like 61, almost $62,000 a Bitcoin. That means that people looking to get graphics cards are extremely strapped. They just can't find them. And I had to explain to me, or at least I read something that explained it to me, that think about this. There's a straight value proposition to mining cryptocurrency and the latest graphics cards. A 3060 mining Ethereum, even being throttled down, will pay for itself in a matter of months. So and that's including the price of electricity. After 3 months, it will pay. It will pay for the price of the card, and then everything after that is pure profit. Now, take that idea and expand it to the 3070, 3080, 3090. All of them will eventually break even, and then they will start earning you money. So if you can get your hands on one, it's a short-term investment, but then with a long-term payoff. So Nvidia has done things in the past. They said that they wanted to limit the amount of people who use their GPUs to mine cryptocurrency. They wanted to put on software and say that, you can't use these things. These are meant for video games. These are meant for video editors. These are meant for people who are going to use them and not just, mine them for cryptocurrency, which is strange for a company to have to come out and say that. Normally a company would just make a product, and let's say a shovel company saying, this is only meant to be used to dig in dirt. How dare you use it to dig in clay? We are banning the clay functionality of our shovels. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but Nvidia tried it and looks like it backfired just a little bit with this here, saying that Nvidia confirms it accidentally unlocked the RTX 3060 Ethereum mining. Whoops. Now, Nvidia made a big deal again about reducing the hash rate of Ethereum mining on its RTX 3060 graphics cards last month. A special system was supposed to make the 3060 undesirable for crypto miners, but Nvidia has now confirmed that it has accidentally unlocked those restrictions with a new driver, and they're saying that a development driver inadvertently included code used for internal development removes the hash limiter on the 3060, and they said that the driver has been removed. So while Nvidia has now removed the driver, the genie is out of the bottle, which is true. Now, anyone with a version that can save it, upload it, and say that this is essentially the driver that you want to revert to get the full functionality out of your graphics card. They're saying that NVIDIA's latest beta driver automatically unlocks the performance for most RTX 3060 cards, boosting hashing rates for Ethereum mining. Mirrors of the driver can easily be found online, and NVIDIA won't be able to prevent owners from continuing to use this driver in the future because, hey, it's made by NVIDIA, works completely. The genie out of the bottle is a very apt expression. NVIDIA originally restricted the mining performance in an attempt to steer crypto miners away from the cards. They mentioned that it's not a driver thing. NVIDIA's head of communications said last month there's a secure handshake between the driver, the RTX 3060 chipset, and the BIOS that prevents removal of the hash rate limiter. Although, that's what he said. He said that it was a complete package. You couldn't just get around it. It was super complicated. Turns out it was just a driver limitation. So, So, by the way, some of the comments here, they said that this is just hilarious, especially after the song and dance they made about this. Really about this feature. I do wonder whether this was a genuine mistake or part of the developer responsible for the release, or a mistake that he received inducements to make. Essentially, a lot of people here seem a little skeptical that this was a mistake, because suddenly, now that this is out here, people who are trying to use GPUs to mine for cryptocurrency, the 3060, which was before a little toxic, you didn't want to use that because it wasn't very effective, suddenly becomes very appealing because, hey, they've been unlocked. It would be in NVIDIA's financial interest to have something like that get leaked. So the fact that it was leaked could have been a mistake, but also could have been completely on purpose. We'll never know. We will never know. Okay, let's see. We have time for like one, maybe two more stories. Because we are Computer America, we're fans of the American manufacturing process. It's great. It's great when Americans get jobs. It's great when America does well. And it's horrible when Americans get taken advantage of. They get promises that are never fulfilled. One of those that we have been paying attention to has been in, Wisconsin. And this has to do with Foxconn. Foxconn, if you don't recall, they make almost everything for Apple. And even beyond that, Foxconn makes everything. They are a huge manufacturer. They're not just Apple, but they are everything everywhere. And they said, even though they've been producing things in Taiwan and China for the longest time, they even built a facility in Wisconsin. And they received billions in dollars in tax incentives and write-offs, and essentially given the land for free and plenty of tax incentives to start producing LCD panels in an American manufacturing setting that would then be used in other products, mainly TVs and phones. That whole thing fell through. And it, all of this promise, all of this economic development that these people were promised, fell by the wayside. And Foxconn really just said, we're not going to do it. Horrible to hear, but looks like we're going again, because going once just isn't fun enough. Foxconn says it might build electric vehicles at the empty Wisconsin site or in Mexico. One or the other. The chairman of the Taiwanese manufacturing Foxconn says that the electronics giant is considering making electric vehicles at its mostly empty worksite in Wisconsin, where the company originally planned to build LCD panels. Either that, or they may make them in Mexico. The decision will be made by July 1st, said at a press conference. In my head, announcing something like that just says to me, Foxconn is looking for more tax incentives, more tax write-offs, to promise to make things and then kind of back out. So obviously best known for manufacturing iPhones, Foxconn has recently shifted some of its attention to the booming electric vehicle market. Late last year, the conglomerate announced that the EV platform on which other companies could build on, so they were going to build things that other companies could then build off of. This year, they announced tie-ups with China's largest private automaker, and with a number of EV startups, it has agreed to build an electric vehicle with Fisker, struggling startup Bitten, let's say Bitten, and may even build one with Faraday Future. Although I gotta say, Faraday Future, garbage. Don't pay attention to that. Foxconn also announced that the EV partnership with Fiat Chrysler in 2020, though neither company has commented on the project since. Fiat Chrysler is now called Stellantis. Really? I did not know that. Stellantis? Let me check that out. Stellantis is, crazy. I guess they're trying to, who knows? Yeah, they're trying to rebrand as Stellantis. I did not know that. Good luck, Fiat Chrysler. Anyways, Fisker previously said that there's a very good chance that it could build a vehicle with Foxconn in Wisconsin, though the chairman's comments on Tuesday are the first time the Taiwanese company confirmed that there is interest in using it. Foxconn broke ground on the factory in 2018. Check all this out. This is the finances of it all. It's all crazy. Broke ground in 2018 after netting $4 billion in tax credits and other incentives from state and local government. The company promised it would invest $10 billion, build a 20 million square foot facility, and create 13,000 jobs, all to make LCD panels. Obviously, this had a lot of tie-in with the former president, and he said that, and he even called it the eighth wonder of the world. I don't know about all that, but there you go. The company said it wanted to build a Silicon Valley of the Midwest, calling it Wisconn Valley. So instead of Silicon, Wisconn Valley. But that never happened. Foxconn has spent the intervening years narrowing the scope of its ambitions in Wisconsin, barely hitting hiring targets set by the state along the way, and has invested just 3% of that $10 billion to date. Oh, running some quick numbers here. That's still like what, $300 million, I guess? They mentioned that the biggest structure built was a 1 million square foot facility. and it was recently reclassified as a storage facility. So not even manufacturing plant, just a 1 million square foot storage facility. Though they claim that it would manufacture LCD panels, in reality, the company has spent years searching for a viable product to manufacture in Wisconsin. For a time, it said it would use it to create an AI 8K plus 5G ecosystem. That makes no sense, though the company never coherently explained what that means. Makes sense. A lot of buzzwords, AI, artificial intelligence, 8K instead of 4K, and 5G, like cell phones. No one gets it. They mentioned that they also considered making coffee robots and, ventilators during the early stages of the pandemic, which would have been handy, but here we are. So the gentleman said, one last time, I took over the Wisconsin task and, there's music. We're going to have to wrap it up. Okay, last thing here, and I need to make it a viable one, so I need to find a product that fits that location. The company has is wondering, saying that whether it's Wisconsin or Mexico, it's not political, it's business from my perspective, which means to me, he's looking for more tax incentives, and if he doesn't get them, or even if he does get them, it's probably going to be Mexico that's going to get those jobs. But hey, here we are. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch you next time. We hope that you like that. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties, but hey, we'll catch you here tomorrow. Everyone, bye-bye.